let the record reflect that the board
And you care. That's what we care about.
came out of closed session at 8:15. We are missing. Here they are. Now, moving on to our final item on the agenda is the selection of board officers. I will, Mr. Ray will keep tally of all the votes. They're all secret ballot. I will now open up for president nominations. Floor is open.
I'd like to nominate Mark Snow for president.
Second.
There's a nomination on the floor for myself by Mrs. Ryan, second by Ms. Cracky. I'll accept that nomination. Tonight I didn't want to give a speech, but I just want to tell everybody at the table that I really do genuinely try to make sure I'm, yes, do you have a question?
Or do we do other nominations first, or
Oh,
speeches?
I forgot. Is there any other nominations? I apologize. Mr. Perlman.
I would nominate Dr. Shavana Holman.
There's a nomination on the floor by Dr. Shavana Holman. For Dr. Shavana Holman, I apologize. You have to accept the nomination to be on there.
I decline.
Any other nominations for president? Mr. Perlman?
I nominate Nancy Cracky.
I decline.
Any other nominations? Mr. Perlman?
I'm going to nominate Amanda Ryan.
I definitely decline.
Any other nominations? Mr.
I'll
Perlman?
nominate Ricky Smith.
I decline. Any other nominations? Mr. Perlman?
I'll nominate Tracy Cassidy.
I decline.
Mr. Perlman?
I nominate Kimura Snipe.
Thank you, but I also decline.
Mr. Perlman?
I nominate myself.
Do you accept your own nomination? Obviously.
Sure.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes to speak. Is that correct, Mr. Ray? If you want to give a nominating speech. Since I was nominated first, I'll just go ahead. I would just want to say that I will do everything I can to make sure that I meet the needs of everybody on the school board. I understand we come from different sub-districts, but it is my job, again, to serve you guys. I really do believe in servant leadership. I know I'm not perfect, but I strive to be perfect or as close to it as possible every day. If you do not feel like you're getting enough information, just pick up the phone, call me, and I would do everything I can to try to meet those needs for you on the board. I'm done. Thank you. Mr. Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to, a nominating speech for myself isn't necessarily a nominating speech for myself, but it's a call to this board to try to work towards becoming a better board in 2019 and do what we can to all work with each other to not look backwards, but look forward. Although I think it's a little bit informative to look about how we got here so we can get to the best place that we can over the next 12 months. The communication between the board is still very lacking, and it's going to burn us at some point. And it already has to some degree. Because prior to 2017, there were 3 school board members who were trustees on the Omaha School Employee Retirement System Board, which selected the investments for the teachers for their retirements, and then those investments were brought in front of the full board and then ratified. On their face, some of these investments were ludicrous, made by people who had no business making investment decisions for a $1 billion retirement fund. And then they were brought in front of the board and rubber stamped. And to some degree, that's understandable because, like any subcommittee, there should be some level of trust of the investment decisions that were being brought in front of the board. But the red flags were, anyone paying attention would have seen them. And the ramifications of those catastrophic decisions are going to affect this school district for the next 30 to 50 years. And they already are. And some of us who are on this board now, there's only one of us who was a trustee on that pension board. And nothing was done to raise alarm about what was going on. And the poor decisions continued on for years. And now we have situations where it's affecting our ability to increase wages, salaries for teachers, invest in the things that we need to invest in. And it's, like I said, it's now affecting the classroom, and it's only going to get worse. And so it's a fine balance between micromanaging and managing, but we can't abdicate our responsibility to manage. That's why we're voted, and that's our job. So as recently as last year, school board members were getting their internet paid for at home. Why that is, I have no idea. So it was a 20-year-old policy that started, I think, when internet was still new, and so there might have been some board members. It was a new thing. It was helping board members work from home, but in 2017, for taxpayers to be paying for home internet for school board members is ridiculous. It's also ridiculous for us to be paying cell phone stipends. As I sit here right now, I'm on call as a county attorney, and nobody's paying my cell phone bill except for me. And when my phone rings, I'm going to answer it because that's my job. And so that's what people need to do. If that's your job to be on call, then you're on call. We don't have the money to be paying for these luxuries. We don't have $7,000 to fly someone. We don't have $7,000 to fly people in here and teach us how to communicate with the media. We just didn't. We didn't have 2.5% to give raises to the highest paid people in this district when we knew what was staring us right in front of our face. But nobody said anything. So we need leadership on this board. And I guess with only 30 seconds remaining, I want to make it clear that I have full confidence in everything that Dr. Logan's been doing to right the ship. But the problems remain. The communication has to get better for us to be able to do our job. For us to pass an audit 28 days after it was already submitted to the state's inexcusable. And this board deserves more respect than that, and we need leadership that shows us that sort of respect. Thanks. And I didn't even get a second, so I can't be board president.
Yes.
Snow. 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 Holman. Snow. Snow. 7 Snow, 1 Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Now we'll open up the floor for Vice President, nominations for Vice President. Thank you for the clap. I appreciate that. Mrs. Cassidy.
Thank you, President Snow. I would like to nominate Dr. Shabana Holman for Vice President.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for Vice President? Do you want to give a speech or say anything, Dr. Holman? That's fine. Do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination.
Thank you. Mr. Ray?
Cracky. Holman. 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 7 Holman, 1 Cracky.
Welcome, Vice President Dr. Holman. Well, I believe that's the end of our meeting. Let the record reflect the meeting is adjourned at 8:28. Good night.